Okay, here we go. All right, all the papers are turned in. We are going to solve this problem by completing the square. And we're all paying attention. Today we're moving on. We're leaving P5, we're moving on. So this is your last shot to get this straightened out. We're going to complete the square. So step one, we're going to divide the whole shebang by 2. Then we're going to move the 2 over, right? Now we're going to actually complete the square. We're going to figure out what we need to add to both sides. So half of 6 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So we have x plus 3 squared. Would you agree with that? Equal to 7. Now we'll square root both sides and move the 3 over. Now, how many of you are happy to see that answer? Okay, good. Now, I'm going to do the same problem with the quadratic formula. And I better get exactly the same answer. Let's see. First of all, I'm going to write my formula down. Now, you don't have to do this, of course, but sometimes it helps to, actually have it there in front of you. I'm going to make note that A is 2, B is 12, and C is 2?
4, yeah. No.
Or 4, I mean. Thank you. Yes, thank you. 4. So x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 12 squared is 144 minus 4 times A times C all over 4. So now I got some arithmetic to do. 4 times 2 times 4 is 32. So 144 minus 32 is 112. Now, obviously, I need to try to break down my 112. So I don't know what goes into 112, but I know 2 goes into 112, right? So I'm just going to start with 2. So 112 divided by 2 is 56. Oh, 56 is 8 times 7. 8 is 4 times 2, and 4 is 2 times 2. So I've got a 2 and a 2 that I can take out. I have another 2 and a 2 that I can take out. And then I got my leftover 7. So I have negative 12 plus or minus 4 root 7. And the reason that's a 4 is because I took out 2 2's, right? Now, what do you notice about 12, 4, and 4? They're all divisible by 4. So if I do that, I'll have negative 3 plus or minus root 7 over 1, which is exactly the same answer when I did it with completing the square.
Do I have to write x equals for that one?
Well, you should always write x equals.
Okay.
Got it?
Miss Ford, say I put x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root, or 2 through 28. Can I get some credit?
Yes, you'll get some credit, not full credit, because what did you not do?
I didn't break it down.
You didn't break all the way down. You broke some down, but you didn't break it all the way down.
So say I didn't get like anything near that, but I tried my best. So I get sometimes
I'll have to look at it.
A for effort.
No, there won't be an A for effort, because effort starts with E.
I'm saying like, can you give me a symbolic A plus? Like, okay.
She can give you
So I get the concept and everything, but it's like always like the last two steps normally on both problems, like the square rooting or the plus and minus. Like on this one, like I get to the answers and I get all that worked out, but somehow I always end up missing like usually the square root and then like crossing it out.
Well, you just have to practice, so maybe, maybe with your tutor, you just start practicing breaking down that, because if that's, if you're getting 112, but you don't know what to go after that, then you need to just practice breaking down radicals.
How many points would you take off if you got to that last step but forgot to break it down to reduce it?
Not much, but there'll be some. And honestly, Suzanne, you should have kind of clued in, I might not be done, because that doesn't match this. Remember, that was the objective. We were supposed to have them match.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I forgot.
So that would be kind of a clue in this case to kind of keep going.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about that.
Okay, so I like divided the 4 before I broke down that radical.
You can't.
Yeah.
Remember, listen, this is a common mistake. At this point, I know there's a negative 12 and there's a 4 here, but they do not cancel. Remember, you must have this triangle of canceling. You can't cancel unless you've got the whole triangle going, okay? All right, now, today, we're moving on. We've been in P5 all week. I'm sick of P5, you're sick of P5, we're going to P6. Here we go. Look at the back of note sheet number 5. Problem number 1 in the P6 section says simplify. Notice in the problem, all these little i's. We're dealing with imaginary numbers. Now, how do we get i's? A negative under a radical. That's exactly right. So, if you look down at problem E, I'm starting with E. It says the square root of negative 81. Remember, anytime you have a negative under a radical sign, the first thing you do is pull it out, and when you pull it out, it magically becomes an I. It's not really magic. The square root of a negative is I. That's the definition. Bryce, what are you doing? Okay, thank you. The square root of a negative is always going to be I. Now, you know the square root of 81 is 9, so the answer to this problem is 9. Look at F. Square root of negative 4 times square root of negative 9. Now, you need to do each of these that same way. So forget this right now. Forget this. Do that right there. What's the square root of negative 4? 2i. Everybody get 2i? What is the square root of negative 9? 3i. Now this is a times problem. They're being multiplied together. So what am I going to get?
6i.
6i squared. Because it's I times I. Now be careful. I squared is negative 1. So every time you come across an I squared, you're going to think it's negative 1. So the answer is 6 times negative 1, which is negative 6. Maya.
When I first looked at it, I said a negative times negative is a positive.
Okay? You can't do that. And it's one of those funky kind of just rules that when you are confronted with negatives under radicals, the first step you have to do, Maya, is take out the I. So you don't even have an option of multiplying them together. You got to pull the i's out first. Very good question. Very common mistake. But you got to take the i's out first. Okay? Now, let me see if there's. Okay. let's look now at A, B, C, and D. These are very easy. I think you're going to be fine with these. But let's go through and practice and make sure. Notice that I've given you an addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So let's do these carefully. First problem A says we're going to add these numbers. Don't be confused or make it hard. This is probably the easiest thing we've done this year. We're going to add these two numbers together. Anybody want to take a wild guess what the answer is? It makes sense. It's common sense.
5 plus 3i.
Exactly. Actually, 5 minus 3i? Maybe that's what you said. Now, how did he get 5? He added the 3 and the 2. How did we get minus 3i? We added the I and the negative 4i. This is the same as collecting like terms. You just add the numbers together, you add the i's together. Okay? So Katie Thomas, when I look at the second problem, then B, it's exactly the same idea, but it's a subtraction. Any idea how that might change things a little bit? I heard somebody say it over here, but I want to hear Katie say it. You would distribute it. That's exactly right. So you're going to distribute this negative. So this is going to be minus 6 minus I. Because you're going to distribute that negative. Now, can you put this all together, Katie? Yep. You're exactly right. And again, Katie did that by combining like terms. So she added these two together and she added these two together. And that's how she got that answer. You okay with that? That's pretty easy, I think. Okay, Maya, on the back row back there, you guys getting this okay? Now next, this is a multiplication. How do I know it's a multiplication? There's no symbol in there. That means times. Here we had a minus, here we had a plus. Now we got a times. Any idea how we might do this?
FOIL.
FOIL. It's exactly what we're going to do. What does FOIL stand for? First, outside, inside, last. So here we go. First times first. 12. Outside. Negative 9i. Watch your signs.
Plus 8i.
Jabron. Yesterday the girls learned a lot because you weren't here to distract them. Do I need to move you? Yeah, I need Taylor to learn today. Inside 8i. And lasts. Minus 6i squared. You're exactly right. Now, don't forget this. Every time you see an I squared, you're going to think negative 1. So when I see this I squared over here, I'm thinking that's negative 1. But it's times a negative 6. So that's going to become plus 6. I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 6 is plus 6.
Yep.
These two add together. It's a negative 9 and a positive 8. So that makes negative 1i, right? Now we have a 12 and a 6. So 18 minus I is our answer. Yes, Bryce?
Wait, never mind. Great question.
Did they still not finish your clock?
You sure, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now we got the toughest. Still easy,
57.
but tougher. All right,
Well, hey.
Why is Mrs. Casey writing this down?
Because they weren't in the office. She's the only lady in the office. They said give it to her. And she wrote
Okay.
it. Yeah.
How was your password for you?
Because I went to pick up the phone when I was going
Okay. Now, I am going to email Mr. Miller or Mr. Thompson, I don't know who you had last year, and tell them how wonderful you are. Whoever can answer, or whoever can tell me how to do this
Oh,
problem.
I think I know.
All these people know how to do this
I
problem?
said, I think I know.
Okay. I'm going to call on Julia because she never raises her hand, and she raised her hand, so I'm going to call on her. So, Julia, what do I do?
You have to multiply by the conjugate.
And what is the conjugate, Miss Henry?
6 plus 1.
Oh my goodness, very good.
Julia.
Now, how many of you remember that?
I remember now.
Very good. Julia, who did you have, Mr. Thompson or Mr. Miller?
Mr. Miller.
Miller. It's not Mr. Miller's fault I don't remember. I just don't remember stuff.
He is going to be so excited.
Really?
Julia, you're an A+.
Just, wait, isn't he teaching next door?
Why are you in college?
Just
Okay, you want me to send a smoke signal over or what? Okay, here we go. That reminds me of a story, real quick, because we got to finish this. But one day we were down here working away, and all of a sudden the power went out. But the power only went out on this wall. So it was like, I mean, like all the computer stuff, everything stopped. It was kind of just wacky and weird. And here's what happened in the room next door. It was before Mr. Knoll was in there. There was another teacher in there. His name was Mr. Gallagher. And one of his students, this is no joke, I mean, he could have been killed, stuck a paper clip in the outlet. He was over in that other classroom. There was an outlet along this wall. He stuck it's a high school kid. It was a computer high school kid. Stuck a paper clip in the outlet, and it, like, one of his flames shot out. I mean, it was awful. And it knocked the power out. It was crazy.
my brother did that once. He put
That's stupid. You could be
No,
killed.
no, he put a.
Did he get like, did he have to go to the hospital?
No. No. Okay. Don't ever do that. Don't ever stick anything in an outlet. Please. All right. Julia reminds us, when we have a fraction involving i's, we have to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the denominator. And the conjugate of the denominator just changes this sign. So since it was 6 minus I, it becomes 6 plus I. If it had been 2 minus 4i, it would be 2 plus 4i. That's what we multiply the top and the bottom by. So now we have two FOIL problems to do. The FOIL problem on the top and the FOIL problem on the bottom. Now, you probably remember something really cool is going to happen. But let's do it and see. So FOIL, 30 plus 5i. Girls, this might be why you never know what's going
I was
on.
explaining, she was explaining.
Okay. And what were you doing, Abby?
Listening?
30 plus 5i plus 18i plus 3i squared. So I am just carefully foiling. 36 plus 6i minus 6i minus I squared. So first, outside, inside, last. We do it on the top and we do it on the bottom. Now, these two will add together. Would you agree with that? So I have 30 plus 23i. Now, what did we say about I squared?
It's 4.
No.
It's 3.
I squared,
Negative.
stop.
Negative 1.
I squared is -1, but since it's times 3, it will be -3. So that will actually be on the top, 27 plus 23i. That's the top. Now, what happens on the bottom? Well, what happens to these two?
They cancel.
They cancel. That's the beauty of the conjugate. Those will always cancel out. What did you say I squared was? -1. So what's negative? -1.
Plus just 36.
Plus 1. So on the bottom, I have 36 plus 1, or 37.
Yay.
And that's the answer. Now, next side. Do not be confused by a problem like 2a. I think you can look at this and tell me the answer. Just using your common sense.
I don't know about that.
If this number is going to be the same as this number, then tell me about x, Ethan.
Is it gonna be 3 plus 2i?
Yeah, x, you're supposed to find x and y. So x is going to have to be 3, and y is going to have to be 2. Because if 3 plus 2i is the same as x plus yi, then these two have to be equal to each other? Think of it like this. These don't have eyes. These do. All right, have a good weekend, people. Homework is posted.
This is the last breakout.
We have a test tomorrow in a week. Next week, be sure you sign up for math.
Wait, is this a Gemini?